Hi, artist Miss Flashier. This week we are working with still lifes inspired by Cezanne. So these are the objects I have for my still life. Very simple. I have an apple, a knife, and a plate. You do not need to do three things. You can do one. You could just do the apple by itself if that's easier for you. Or you can put it next to something. I also have an orange here that you, I would suggest fruit because that would be more along the lines of how he drew. But I'm gonna set this up. I'm gonna start drawing it and we're gonna talk about Cezanne as I draw it and give you tips on how to draw your still life and shade it correctly. Okay, so like we did with Georgia O'Keeffe, I have my still life over here. You have to have it in front of you so that you can look at it. And if you remember, Cezanne looked at objects and saw the basic shape in them. So our apple is pretty much an oval shape. So it's kind of a squashed oval. So that's what I'm going to start with, but I'm not just going to draw an oval on my paper and not look at what I'm drawing at. The one thing I really want you to pay attention to is if you just draw your apple, and I'm drawing it big, I'm not drawing it really tiny in the middle of a big paper. If you draw your apple and you just leave it like this, it's going to be floating. So that's one of the reasons why I added the plate. So the plate comes around here. Okay. So just, again, you're just sketching. Okay. And my knife is about here. Okay. So that's the basic layout. But I actually also want to add the table to this drawing so that the plate doesn't look like it's floating. So, and you don't even have to draw, you could just draw a line here that the table is here. Okay, so we're gonna start shading with, my apple is mostly yellow with a little bit of green and a tiny little bit of red on the bottom. So I'm just gonna start like I did with the flower with a basic color of yellow and start to shade my apple. I'm going to keep shading this and then talk to you once I get closer to the end of it of how to make this look like a Cezanne with certain things that he did with his artwork that made it his own style. So I'm going to put this in time lapse, keep working, and I will show you and talk to you when it's finished. Okay guys, sorry. I'm making sure that this is focusing. It's having a hard time today to focus. I messed up the time lapse, so I have a lot more shaded than the last time I left you. And I'm finishing. I just want to show you here that the light is coming from this side of the picture, so I'm actually adding in the shadow. Otherwise, if you don't add shadows to objects, they look like they're floating too. So my apple would look like it's floating over top of the plate. So if you can see, just like with the flowers that we did, I added a whole bunch of other colors into this apple and blended it with browns and greens and yellows and reds, and I'm gonna go in and add some blues towards the end. But I'm gonna finish most of this drawing and then come back and talk to you. And this time I will put it in time lapse so that you can see how I'm doing it. Okay, so the thing about Cezanne's drawings and paintings is that he always has this really heavy outline around his objects, whether it's a building or a tree. So now that I'm finished the whole apple, I'm going back in with a dark blue and outlining the whole thing. But I'm not just doing it like I would with like a marker and trace it. I'm still blending my colors into what I already drew. And so I'm gonna mix this, I don't know, it's almost a purple. What color is this? Violet. This is a violet. I'm gonna mix it with some black around the outside. And what it does is it defines the shape that he draws in his projects. Okay, so again, find an object, try and draw it. I messed up my table here, so I started to go over it. I'll probably cut this paper off here, but my plate, this is the shadow for my plate as well. And then I will go in with my plate and outline it as well, or outline it also like Cezanne does, so you can see the edges of everything really clearly. Okay, so this is what I want you to work on, and do your best, have fun. You can use crayons, don't use markers again. Crayons, color pencils are the best, okay? And if you mess up, just like I did, don't worry about it. You can, a lot of times you can erase color pencils, which I did a few times here. And you can always just go over top of stuff if you don't like the way something looks. So sometimes accidents are happy, and we can come up with something really cool from it. Okay, so remember to look at your object as you're sketching it and have fun.